Okay, this is our first talk night. It's me, Z, with Cam, Jason, and TJ. Say hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi guys.
Hi, guys.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Okay, there you go. So, floor's open.
Um, you have no like you have no like prompt you have a prompt for us, Z, or like you have some material or anything, just anything.
Well, we were going to talk about the 13th floor, but Cam hasn't finished it. So
I feel like
maybe
that
you
was a
guys
movie.
want to talk about. It is a movie, yeah.
I remember
So
watching it
we
years
can either
ago.
talk about the concept of the 13th floor, or we could potentially talk about Dark City. You could review your conversation about Dark City as a place to get into it as a.
I mean, we could go into Dark City for sure because that's more of a movie that all of us have kind of covered more. I think, right? TJ, have you seen Dark
Have
City?
you ever seen Dark City, TJ? Yeah.
I can't say that I have. Maybe. If not, I'll put it on my list.
Yeah.
Where can I
let
watch
Jason
it?
and
I
Cam
watched it
start.
twice.
Who has it? Where'd you guys find it?
I watched Dark City again like a couple years ago, and I just rented it off Netflix. Or I bought
Okay,
it actually. I bought it off Netflix.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I didn't even know you could buy things on Netflix.
Me
You mean
neither.
YouTube?
Or what I mean, no, or maybe it was Roku or whatever my
Oh, Roku, yeah. You can buy
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
on it too.
Was it Hulu?
I don't know if there's a buy level anymore on Netflix. Just you get what's on there. That's it.
Yeah. Either way, I think it's maybe I did just rent it then.
It's on YouTube for sure. It's on YouTube. I have it purchased as a YouTube. So, anyway, if Jason and Cam start talking about Dark City, you'll pick up what we're putting down. So,
Okay.
Well, like I say, the Dark City thing is like there's a lot of things that are represented in that movie. It's just like pardon me, the concept of like they're constantly changing things.
Mm-hmm.
And Cam and I spoke about this, and he was speaking from some like personal experience about how they will even change geography, or we've seen it with buildings. Like you go into New York and it's like that building is not the same as it was last time. Like it's completely different, and it was just like a couple months ago, or like there's no sign of construction. The building that's there now looks really old. It's like sometimes we've seen like churches that are, and this is even in like somewhat rural Connecticut or North Carolina, where it's like, or in Myrtle Beach, where they like change things. Like there's like buildings that like appear seemingly out of nowhere.
And
So
that lines up a lot with it lines up a lot with two things, two like little points. Like the whole Tartaria thing obviously comes to mind. But even before that, there's a lot of buildings from like the World's Fair, for example, that they claimed were built as temporary structures and then they destroyed them. And also just buildings that they make these kind of extraordinary claims saying that they were created in like 1902, or it was built in 2 years, and it's something that we probably couldn't build in 10 years now, but they built it in 2 years. And then the other point I wanted to make about it is that it's a lot of the time this type of stuff is just like a overt humiliation, or that's like kind of part of the reason why they do it is kind of a humiliation ritual and a kind of again like an overt disclosure, because they're telling you that the world is like basically in the way that we conventionally believe it, the world is not real, and or that it can be altered in ways that are beyond what we typically would imagine. And the kind of, I guess, humiliation aspect of it is simply that they're laughing at the fact that it's like such a ludicrous thing that fits to people. The idea that they're showing it as fantasy, but it's not actually fantasy. Kind of like the big joke of it all. You know, that's the joke of a lot of these movies.
No, it's good. That's good. That last part wasn't even coming to me, but that last part's very interesting, because if it comes down to deep wisdom, knowledge, and data is embedded in movies, then it's easily discreditable, because you go, oh, that's just the plot of this movie. Like, no, no. But so one of the first things I heard to go back through this is we want to talk about the RAS in the brain structure called the reticular activation system, or the reticular activating system, which is essentially selective focus. You could say, okay, you take a space inside your kitchen, inside your bedroom, inside your car, a place where you are every day. And let's say you have a really good talk with somebody. You're sitting in one of these spaces that you're really familiar with on the phone. And then suddenly you get off the call, and whether you want to call that your brain chemistry or wherever you're at, it shifts. So your selective focus, let's say it's shifted. You didn't even realize as it was shifting. You have a different stuff going on, different sensations, and you just suddenly look, and you feel like you've just never looked at the room, because suddenly, if it's so to speak a thumbnail, you know you're not even really looking at the room anymore. You're looking at your imprinted memory of the room. It's just kind of there. You know every wall. You know it, so you're not really looking. But suddenly you get displaced by the series of information you're getting really fixated on the call, and then you look and you feel like you're looking again. Colors are brighter. So just to acknowledge this more basic phenomena of your selective focus changing. So let's say we've covered that, and you're pretty clear, and you become situationally aware of how you could go through a whole different series of events out at a party, out at the bar. You come back to your house and you're looking at your room. It looks all different because you're displaced from your static view of that room, or a call, like we said. So, but that's not that. You can become very situationally aware even after an unusual, atypical series of events has altered the static view you have of something you're taking for granted, too familiar with. We're beyond that. Now you're talking about specific things in a very familiar environment where you have a lot of good, what we could call experimental controls, and they are just different. Like somebody came in and renovated your room while you're not there, or changed some things in the kitchen, and you know it's not, you're not going to gaslight yourself back to a selective focus shift. It's not that. It's literally not that. Very subtle things. It could be like the shape, or say if you were to tape measure and just keep records of the length, width of your cabinets, or something is shifted. And you could keep empirical track of it. Like things are changing. Let's say you now have somebody else who might be as familiar with the space as you, and they're hip to this, they're savvy this is going on. And you kind of ask each other, you check in like, wait a minute. You know, the more people, you could fall over into mass formation, psychosis, hypnosis at that point. But you know, if you're checking with one or two people and you're like, yeah, that's definitely different. Or you have an object that's very familiar, say it's a knickknack, and you know the colors of it. Say it's a rooster on a windowsill, and it's definitely typical rooster colors, and there's some yellow and red and white. but now it's strange rooster colors and it's purple and blue, and you're saying like, no. So when we deal with the very familiar things, or we could see really good controls, or bigger things, like they've conventionally been called Mandela effects, even though it's extremely limiting. And we like to use the broader term edits, where say there really wasn't a building there, now it's there. You can look at coming off that tangent tangentially to, there are buildings that we have standing in Connecticut. One of our prominent examples is a lot of the fine aspects of the architecture at Yale University. It's just laughable. Like you could find somebody and say, hey, you have 10 years. Could you make this one arch with all those little canards, all those little intricacies, please? I mean, top people in the world, like it's, and then you realize it's not just one arch, it's thousands and thousands of tiny little micro, so that's on existing buildings that, but then the other problem is, while these are all very useful tools to get ourselves to raise our consciousness about what's going on, when we say, oh, it was the World's Fair, oh, the World's Fair was Tartarian, this is really about the Tartarians, and then it becomes a phenomenology of that, and that's still not it. That's just another, oh, we gave it another name. Oh, so the reality of the world was the Tartarians. Like, no, it's not going to be that, because that's just a phenomenology. Oh, it's that, but it's not the mechanism itself, because the mechanism itself is going to go and say, well, then what did that? What did the Tartarians? It's going to keep going. So that's what I have to say about where you're going to start, and if you want to come back in on that. Oh, and the last thing I remembered as well is the humiliation ritual, because the humiliation, the mockery part of it that Cam brought up is good too. That's kind of like in the movie, for using the lens of the Dark City movie, which is a Philip K. Dick wrote a book. It's an adaptation. Overall, obviously, looking at this level of the world we're experiencing is kind of a game board we're moving around on, more of like a holograph that's far more fluctuative than some of the information that we experience in here would want us to believe. And the humiliation part of that is, well, in the movie, nobody knows how to get to Shell Beach, but everybody's taken for granted, and they're all sure that, everybody knows how to get to Shell Beach. But if you press them, they get frustrated, or they just kind of brush it off. Well, everybody knows. And no, actually, could you draw it out? Could you tell me how many right turns, what street, what are you talking about? Nobody's been there. That's the way that some of the humiliation is kind of shown.
Yeah. So I decided I want to be called Camden on here, but just so everybody knows that I'm changing it now. But the one comment I wanted to make, because I appreciate that you brought that up. Like when I say Tartarian, I don't necessarily really even believe that like Tartaria was like a civilization. What I'm referring to is like previous cycle or previous cycles architecture, or things that were founded, quote unquote founded, which are buildings that they found or just discovered, and then some guy takes credit for it, like some Freemason will take credit for the building, and then they'll say they built it in 2 years in like 1908, which if you usually, a lot of the time it'll be out west or like in Ohio, right? Like where I'm from, I'm pretty sure Ohio became a state in like 1808 or 1803 or something like that, around like the early 1800s. And then you have these, and I remember learning in school when I was growing up that the average man would take his lifetime to clear 2 acres of land, and then his son would start a farm in Ohio, because of how broad and full of dense woods there were here. And then you expect me to believe that like 20 years after Ohio becomes a state, they have the resources to build these ornate structures that they apparently were built in like 2 to 5 years. You know, these churches that seem much older than whatever they claim. And it's just, I mean, the audacity of it is pretty ridiculous. Yeah, Tartarian is it's just a term that I'm using as like a blanket term for like past civilization.
No, it's fair because a lot of the information that started coming out about it was in our timeline was Russians who were talking about it as Tartaria, and a lot of people know it that way, so it's fair. You know, it's and for all we know, in a previous cycle, they were Tartarians, but you know, you said it well. It's a bigger dynamic that doesn't get pigeonholed to a certain group, and there's no reason that whatever's producing this layer of the video game can't just go, hey, look, we're just going to pop up buildings inside the video game with giant doors. That'll make them wonder. You know, so the supposition is, oh, there were these much larger people. And at some cycle there probably were, but also it could just throw them in here just because. Oh, they'll imagine giants now. Yeah. So.
It kind of reminds me of like the whole last Thursday theory that everything was created and spontaneously put here last Thursday. But then it was just put there to look like it had age, you know.
Absolutely, because you have no way to prove it didn't.
Yeah.
And then I love when people, you know, come in with their mid-grade IQ on that, and they're like, you can pick it up and you can see it and you can touch it. It's like all of that becomes program stimulus, but you can't, like, no, nope, that's not your empirical proof because your program processor about those touches sites, like you can't prove that. It's happening now. That's it. I'm like, oh, well, where do we have these stored memories that address the nature of these changes? Oh, is that non-local? Is that so subjective?
Well, those people are not accepting the basic reality that we are subjective, and our brains are just taking inputs of electrical signals through different senses that we have, and then compiling a quote unquote reality out of whatever it is that we can scrape up together. Combined with sharpening our reticular activation system, like you said earlier, you know what I mean? That's all we are. It's like a lot of people, I guess, they can't grasp the basic fundamental reality that this is pretty much subjective inherently.
And this is,
Go ahead, TJ.
I was gonna say, this is all based from the Dark City.
Well, no. I mean, a lot of this stuff is just kind of like observable, like right here in reality. Like
Yeah.
Z made the example of Yale University, and that
Right,
is
right.
that's probably one of the best ones. And it's like it's not like some building that you have to go to pay to be in. It's just you just go to New Haven and walk around the campus. And I mean, I even have I got a buddy who is a Mason. Like his dad was a Mason, and I don't mean like Mason like the organization. I mean like he's a bricklayer.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like he's a stonemason. Like that's his profession. And you know, I'll ask my buddy. I'll like this architect. He's like, man, he's like, and this is not a guy who, like, I've been friends with this guy my whole life, you know, and he's not exactly like up edgewise on the conversation subject matter that we're having right now. Like, I mean, he's a trustworthy friend who will, you know, get something done for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I love my buddy, man. We wrestled together all through high school and stuff.
Yeah.
He's a super good dude. But for us to talk about like, these types of like Mandela effects and stuff, that's just not his typical conversation matter, and that's just not like where his head's at most of the time.
Yeah.
But you can and that's what I'm saying. That's why he's a good test. He's like a good
Benchmark.
like a barometer. Like you can ask this guy, hey man, what do you think about this art? He's like, there's no way I could build that. He's like, there's no way I don't even see how they do this.
Yeah.
And especially back then, right? Like these buildings were apparently built in the 1800s. And I'll be like, yo, dog, look at this architecture. He's like, I know. He's like, I grew up with a dad who's a mason, man. Like I've built homes, massive retainer walls, like, I mean, serious like structures,
Allegedly commissioned by my wife's great uncle.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just of note, as the Styles first president of Yale.
Yeah,
is my wife's father's great uncle or something. Anyway,
I see Yale like
and the thing is, it's not just one. It's not like it's just one really complicated piece of the bridge. It's hundreds and hundreds of these intricacies. And when you go to Cam just got to see it, and at first it's like, yeah, I see what you're saying. Some of the standard buildings you're driving by, it's like, yeah, that's a lot, especially the angles and the components of the windows. And Camden is no stranger to construction and using these tools in the hands and the eye to compose these things. And it's the standard buildings, and then you're seeing like the bridge. And then I went and took him to some of the giant towers and the large ones. He's like, okay, forget it. What in the world?
Yeah, it's like impossible.
Yeah, those things are amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
It is.
I was just gonna say, like, I have no idea how you would even go about that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the height of the scaffolding they would have to build, and the time it takes to sculpt it. Like it's.
And I'm not taking away from anything else we've said, but one could assert, that a brain before any computers or any TVs, maybe they were just better. They were just healthier.
Yeah. I think a lot of
one
the
could say
architects back then, like, we're still trying to figure out how the hell they did that stuff that they did way back when, and how did that?
You could say that a less preoccupied brain that had never stared at a cell phone, that never stared at a computer monitor, that never stared at a TV, maybe you could at least make the case, and that we are just so distorted in our selective focus from staring at these screens. Maybe, but then we introduce the level. Then we have the level up in Robbinsville, just outside Trenton, New Jersey, of the Swaminarayan temple that they built there. It says the largest capstone of any building in the world, I believe, and it's the largest temple outside of India of this kind. And and they want to allege that it was all shipped in little boxes, little kits that was assembled by complete novice volunteers. And this thing is immaculate. It's wonderful to behold, but the idea that this was it's a whole nother exponent of this phenomena. Like, okay, so you can look it up online. It's called Akshardham, but nothing you're going to see online compares to actually going to Robbinsville, New Jersey, and walking. And it's free. There's no charge. You can just show up and walk through this gigantic temple and yeah, okay. I know Jason's seen it, so you can comment. But.
Yeah, I was gonna, the idea. So that's like you or me, TJ. Like I have never sculpted. I have a very limited amount of like laying brick in like building a couple buildings that I've built with my dad or on a job site. Very limited working with brick and mortar.
Mm-hmm.
So and sculpting, like I've never done that. So for me to that's like taking that's like somebody like me and being like, hey, why don't you take this stone and see what you can do with it? And it's just like world class brilliance and immaculateness. So it's like, no, like
And
I
then
could,
they put up they put up posters all around, and they have a little. You come into what seems more like a reservation style casino building where you come in, even though even that part of the campus is really beautiful, but you come into more of like this style, casino style with a little theater, and you sit and you watch a goofy little movie about the place, and they're just putting it in your face that these amateur volunteers, and if you believe that, that is square in the lap of what Camden is talking about of a humiliation ritual. Because you are being mocked they're just pushing that envelope as far as they can. Because you can go down there, you can see these Yale buildings, and even if we could say, yeah, it's not likely even then that a clear, brain clear human like could really do that, but they're telling you with those buildings, the zeitgeist is, that the people who built these buildings were the most impressive architects and engineers and sculptors of the time. Okay, not likely, but that's fair. That's fair. But here at this place, they're really just shoving it in your face. That is a humiliation ritual that through a kit that was just sent. These Lego bricks, were just sent, and a bunch of amateurs they just built this. Like they're just really pushing the mockery.
This building
It's
is
just
in
they're
New
more
Jersey.
spiritual than all of it.
yeah, it's in Robbinsville.
Yeah, I'm
TJ.
looking at it right now.
It's
Wait, hold on. You're telling. Wait, hold on. I'm
it's out of
busy.
control, bro. Like, I mean, when
What
you go
the
there and
heck?
see it, it's like, holy shit.
Immaculate.
What the?
Yeah.
It's all white. It's gorgeous. You don't have to be Hindu to appreciate that this is beautiful. Like
Yeah.
it's just immaculate and wonderful. And yeah, whatever. So if you actually buy their goofy little story, you're in the humiliation ritual that Camden's talking about. You're totally being mocked.
This is nuts. And then, how long did it take for them to do this? They said.
About 8 months. A bunch of volunteers. They just put it up.
Yeah, it's
No
so
way.
the foundation and all of that, it actually said they actually say that it took like 4 years. But
3 years overall for the laying of the campus as the foundation, but erecting the actual wall, like they said, like
yeah,
8 months.
the
There's no way.
actual meat of the structure, if you will, like the all of these, like, so it's so intricate too. It's like when you're in
So
there,
intricate, and
dude, when you're in there, it's like it's really big, so like you're there and it's this
it's
massive
huge,
structure, you
huge.
know and
You're
so
picturing like the idea of Taj Mahal big,
and you get in there and the immaculate, I mean the precision of the angles of the sculpting that's been done here. It's so precise and there's so much detail.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fucking, it's like
Yeah. The
it's
amount of detail that's in this is freaking.
it's unreal. It's like it's just, and that's the point. It's like
And they
that's
wanted to. They even take it even after all of that. After all of that, TJ, they even mock you a step further and say they only use simple tools to do it.
yeah.
There's no fucking way.
Yeah, there's no fucking way, bro.
No. Like
Like, I
no.
mean, I don't even think
Even those little statues, like you're gonna have. How do you get behind that? and sculpt that thing perfectly with just simple tools.
Well, no, they're not saying that they did any sculpting. That was just an example Jason was using in general.
Oh, right.
What they allege is that each, like a block, like a brick, that they were sculpted in India and sent over, but just even that they were, as Jason's saying, the angles, the precision, that even to say that they were able just to take this like it was a bunch of Legos and just put it together still.
Yeah.
You do.
And it's like, as far as when they were produced, it's like the amount of time that it would take. So you could go to like a rock sculptor or something, some kind of individual who's in that profession, like who does this as like a hobby or something, and say it's just like my buddy who grew up laying brick with his dad and building structures. He's a stonemason. It's like, and this is just some average guy for the in the realm of what we're talking about. Like his like perception level is just like he's just some normal guy, So, and when it comes to this stuff, so I would be like, hey man, what do you think about that? And he's just like, I don't even know, man. He's like, I don't even know what to say about these things. He's like, there's no way that my dad and his dad is like extremely talented stonemason, like doing like
years and years and years of experience and
decades of experience, so
And
yeah,
then you
like
take this temple, go ahead.
I'm just saying, it's like, it's just not possible. Like, it's outside of the realm of possibility. The Swami Narayan temple is like, it's on a whole nother level.
Yeah.
Man.
But now we've got that as an actual living example, and you go in there and then you reference these pictures where Camden started, and you look at some of these buildings, whoever built them, that were in Chicago, and you're just like, no. Like Chicago 1840, Chicago 1880, like, what? No. And then Chicago 1920, let's knock it down and start again for some reason.
Yeah, exactly. They say they were temporary structures that they just put up for just like a couple months, and then they destroyed it. And then you look them up. Like if you look up the World's Fair pictures, all of those they claim were temporary. I mean, this doesn't make any sense. So it's a joke. It's literally just a joke.
Well, no, it's more than a joke, but the kind of joke that is exactly what you said when you began. It's a humiliation ritual if you believe it. If that narrative seems legit, if that narrative seems legitimate to you, that they were just temporary, like, you're being mocked.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess
the people who are the people who are going around with their sheep and collecting bales of hay, but they also did this, but they had trouble making plumbing, but they did this. Or there's another facet of it too. You go around all this alleged medieval world, and they built these glorious castles, but these people just seem to forget bathrooms. They couldn't work that one out. They could build castles that we can't even imagine, palaces we can't even imagine building now. And they just somehow were too stupid to build a bathroom. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, they have their immaculate castle with their little outhouse out back, bro. You know how it is.
Yeah.
Or there was something else going on with these people, and they just didn't need a bathroom. Whoever was living in there just didn't need a bathroom for some reason.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Who was living in these castles?
I've been to a castle before in Ireland, and they're intricate as fuck. Like it was down to the point where you could tell that like the castle was originally built for a left-handed swordsman because of like the way that certain spiral staircases are structured. like if you were going to hide out at the top, you could set it up in a way to which if you're left-handed, anybody coming up would be right-handed, and then their sword would be against the wall, and then you could hit down on them, right? Like, so it's like they have like all of this intricacy and all of these like methods of like making hooks, like even something as simple as like a doorknob is like this like wooden contraption with like a lever and all this weird shit, like that they just use like
I know.
You know, it's like it's really funny.
Exactly. You've got these guys with all this skill, all this brilliance and genius and design, but they're going out to what Jason said, to the crapper out back with a hemp rope to wipe their ass. That everybody's going to use the same hemp rope to wipe their ass in the crapper out back. Totally believable.
Yeah. Well,
so then the segue would be, go ahead, please.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, one day if I build an immaculate home, I'm definitely going to have an outhouse. I wouldn't have indoor plumbing, dude, you know, like pay homage.
Who wants the convenience of a bathroom?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Who wants the convenience of a bathroom inside? I mean, gosh.
I'm just going to dig a hole in the yard, bro, you know?
Get your shovel, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good for the vegetables.
HOAs are going to add up, then.
They were just really into composting for the vegetables.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what all wealthy people say, I'm pretty sure. To hell with indoor plumbing.
Yeah, but then the segue, if we use the Dark City lens again, the segue goes to the bodies that we inhabit now as consciousness, as conscious beings, these bodies we inhabit. So the framework of the movie is, here's a bunch of people and you open your eyes, get out of bed. Oh, this is my family. This is my house. This is the dining room I eat in. But then this group goes around and through effectively an injection, they switch them out constantly. They syringe out the consciousness and put it in a different body. So for algorithmic interest, a bunch of variables and controls in the experiment, they just keep moving the consciousness of the being to different bodies, different family scenarios, different geographical locations, different houses.
Well, that's what I mean, that's how I began the conversation with changing everything. That's what I'm saying. It's like they're constantly changing everything, including us.
So you ever have this, again, going back to the disqualifications, we're not talking about an RAS shift, a reticular activating system, selective focus change of how I see myself when I came out of the gym today. Not like that, but like you really know yourself. Or you look at a variety of different photos. It's not just I was 6 and then I was 16 and before I was 10 and now I'm 26. No. I mean, like you look at your bone structure, your fundamental face, and you have a collection of photos in which you are fundamentally different. You have different features, but you just take that thumbnail and collapse the wave and go, well, that's me. But on analysis and investigation, what? You start to realize there's multiple dolls of you, if you will, that are getting switched in and out of this. And at a certain point of observation and analysis, this becomes, it's irrefutable. It's irrefutable. You can't really open your eyes and really deeply look and go, yeah, there's nothing strange here. These are all the same. My nose is never a different shape entirely.
Which is to say that, which just peels back another level of, quote, realness, unquote, of this reality. Like the idea that And you know, I've presented this idea before that these bodies really don't age at all. They just give you a new one every few days, you know, or like every few months for sure. Like as you grow or as you develop, there's actually this reality is so intangible, and base that on like quantum science and the understanding of atoms and what it is that we're experiencing exactly with all this empty space, refracting light, and perception. You know, I mean, without going into all of that, like 101 stuff, like, and just like with the presumption of this, like, you know, understanding of this basic gnosis, it's like I don't even think that these bodies really even age very well at all. Like they're not, they were never designed to. It's like
it's just it's if you use the idea, couple ideas here, like a cartoon flip book, you know, where every page that is gonna make the cartoon or the module, now you'd see digitally animated cartoons. But if you look at the old cartoons, they would originally use like a bunch of pages bound together, and they would literally flip them and then sort of video them close up getting flipped. And obviously we got better and better at how to do that real frame by frame process. But originally it was a cartoon flip book, you know? So that's like, oh, body, 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 you know, like you slow it down frame by frame, and it's just this preserved element that's multi-frame. Or you say, take something like our standard daily conceptualization of a river. Like if you didn't process it, you'd say, well, what's the river? You'd say a river is water. Like, is it? Or is it the opportunity for the water to come through, and the actual river is the channel, you know, the dirt and the embankment and the rocks there that stick around. Obviously the rocks don't have to, and that particular dirt could be silt and moved too, but that place where the river is, because that water, by essence of being a stream of water, that water is not staying. That water doesn't constitute this river, this brook, this creek, this stream. It's going somewhere. So what is the river? The space where the river happens. So the space where you occupy and perceive life as this body, as this character on the screen. Would you really be sure when your consciousness checked out for a minute, when it's sleep mode, that you came back with the same body and parameters? Now we're back to Camden's classical philosophical example of last Thursday. Yeah, prove it wasn't made 5 minutes ago. Prove this is the same me. I have all the memories and data. Okay. So
yeah, I mean, I would argue otherwise. Like, you know, I've been, you know, pushing this theory, you know, for a while. It's like that this body that I'm in right now, it actually doesn't really age very well. Like the skin and like all of this stuff, it's like they have to modify it. It doesn't just, it's not just like you're born into it and then it grows and all of a sudden it's like, you know, all of these modifications are intentional, you know. And
well, now you're going to the heart of something too, because now you're going to start asking about women. Are they actually growing these little humans?
well, that's the thing. It's like I'm not sure that they are, you know.
Oh man, the one thing they do well, you're going to take away from them?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, why not? Like, I mean, I I don't have space for your like emotional attachment females. Sorry, to your like one like thing that you can do. Well,
Well, the thing is, in the Matrix, we would still need them to do that thing to produce the effect. Whether it's happening or not, that's still the way that gets done in actualization. So
no doubt,
we
and
still need you.
that's kind of like the river. That's like the river, you know. It's like the female body is the opportunity for, you know,
An
reproduction.
entry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, you know, yeah, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from that. I mean, I'm, you know, the joys of fatherhood, bro. It's like, that's not something that I'm passing up, you know? And, you know, to,
But then that's something that takes up mental bandwidth too. That's like mental space. I am father. I am mother. I am brother.
yeah, but that's what I was about to say. It's really just an opportunity for something to come through for me to give it guidance. Like now I'm the, you know, it's kind of like the whole thing of the river again. Like this new opportunity for a soul to come back in and play this game. Okay, now let me be the riverbed this time, you know? I
Yeah.
mean,
You're the shepherd. You're the structure that says go this way.
sure. So, I mean,
I,
that's worth doing. You know, like new people, they're much easier to you know, get to, you know, if we can stop them from ever becoming these disgusting fucking assholes, then, you know, then we these disgusting things that we see walking around our city streets, then, you know, that's a lot easier and a lot higher rate of success than trying to convince these people to stop being them damn selves.
well, if we go back for a second to the movie, I just want
Sure.
to get Camden's recent viewings perspective, but throwing into the idea of the need for flesh, which is deteriorating much more rapidly than sometimes we want to give it credit for. You know, like cheese or something left out, you know, doesn't age well, not a well aging cheese, and needing this. So we have these notions of something like Area 51 and like aliens, like, no, they're just cloning centers or they're genetic tech centers where the flesh and the organs, all the tissue gets worked on or improved. But in the movie sense, you know, this is a much more interesting question now that we're stumbling into, like they, you know, how do you relate to the dynamic, Camden, of how the they, as the vril or whatever they call them in that movie, are portrayed, that are perpetrating these switches all the time?
How do I relate like those characters to real life and like how they operate?
Yeah. Like, what do you see in that perspective? Like, is that directly how it is? You know?
I think that personally, I think that the way that they represent the kind of little ghastly like alien guys coming through their doors, that they materialize in the walls and kind of just come through like a little ripple in reality. I think that's kind of a symbolic thing. I mean, I'm not saying that they can do that because I have actually heard stories of that exact thing happening. But I kind of think that it's more of like a meta approach. Like I'm not really like I mean I do believe that there are like men in black and things like that, but I think that generally they can do a lot of things like almost remotely.
Mm-hmm.
To a large extent, because to believe and to say that they have to and I might be wrong about this, right? But like to believe and to say that they have to show up physically to like physically alter you, that kind of suggests like a belief that this is all real, quote unquote real, which is kind of what we're going against in the first place. Like, and I do believe that like if you're in custody, right, like you're in jail, like yeah, they might send someone to eject you, right? Because they're opportunistic. That's like a very something that it's a very like it's a very common quality of Satan and like the devil is opportunism, right? If you give them a chance to do it, they'll take it, right? So, but
even more than opportunism is contract. You have to give consent in contract for it to do anything. It's just not. But I hear what you're saying. You're on a good track.
Well, I'm gonna.
I mean, once like they take
It
a
won't.
route.
It won't do it. It won't just you. It won't just take opportunity without getting you to sign your own. You have to sign your will away. You know, yes, it does like those opportunities, but it can't actually trespass on you if you really say no. It's not going to happen. But you're on a great track, and there's certainly a lot to say.
That's like you saying that you can't rob me if I punch you in the face, but your intention is still to rob me.
Yeah. Well, Jason definitely wants to get into part of the jail thing, but just before that, my question in asking it is like, is realizing where these particulars, you know, they're depicted as, what do they call them, the tuners, you know, they're tuning, whatever they call it in the movie, and they really are algorithms that even they're being activated by the real people. The real people just don't realize it. So I'm saying in the real world, they don't have any real power. They're a mechanism. And that mechanism is actually controlled by real people who don't realize the extent of their power, or even more so, the extent of what happens when they do things. The consequences of their actions are far sweeping, and we're conditioned out of real. So it's a question of like, how did we end up, if there was a state that's not like this, or this is the confusion state, how did we end up in this state? How did these mechanistic algorithmic controllers that do all this stuff from an angle of perception that looks like, oh, they just do it to us? It's like, or is that our cope? We're just pretending to be victims of this thing that we are now passive to, that we put in motion to excuse ourselves from responsibility, if you will. But that's a long way around. I just wanted to begin to access that inquiry while Jason wants to come in on the jail part.
Actually, I wasn't going to come in on the jail thing, but I can. Obviously, I mean,
or whatever you were going to say.
Yeah. I was going to talk to him. I was going to make comment to Cam's statement about not needing
Camden.
to be in like proximity and change you through, you know, like a process of like material interaction, of bodily interaction. It's like, dude, sometimes like I've been like walking down the street before and I'm like, whoa, upgrade. Or like modification. Like, you're totally right. Like it's through like frequency and waves, you know, that they like modify the particulate matter of your body. It's like it's kind of like you would think of like energy directed weapons, but it's not necessarily always a weapon. And I also, as we're talking about all this, it's like I wanted to make comment to the different factions, because it's like the Kiefer Sutherland character in the movie is very real, like, and it's not just one guy, you know. It's like, as there are these like, you know, seethy, filthy, nasty, vile beings, it's like there are also like the Kiefer Sutherland element characters too. You know, like those guys are out there. And they're like modifiers as well. They may modify you too. It's not like, obviously, and I'm going to say it bluntly to the whole world here on YouTube Live, if there were no Kiefer Sutherland character types, if there were not these factions of righteousness and goodness in this world, I would not be alive right now. Like, you know, like they would have figured out some way. Like, there has to be some type of balance. Like, there's no way that I would have that we would have made it this far. I mean, and that's just like an idea that I have, and I could be wrong, you know, and we could be like, you know, pretty much like the only people out there who are completely, you know, surrendered to the Holy Spirit for one, but also in like the gnosis of reality and acceptance of this. Maybe we are, and there is only like these like vile moon dwelling beasts, like, but I don't think that's the case, but
I feel like it's somewhere it's in between what you're saying, because so if we're having a very difficult discussion because it's hard to begin to bring this into communicatable bits of information where everything we're inundated with on a daily basis is not this, even though this should be the conversation by the witness, by the observer, by the curiosity and discoverable elements of a child just looking at this going, there are questions here that we're not staying with, that should be stayed with every minute of the day. But once we get our collective focus retrained to have like this discussion, slowly we're there. It's easier. We're conditioning the room, if you will, to get ourselves on this topic. But once we see some of these, we're ambling in. So I like that. I just wanted to amble into this conversation, and we start to see, okay, so something is influencing the substrate that we're moving around in constantly. What is that, and where does it come from? We're sourcing that. It's like, are they doing that, or they are a mechanism of doing that? Or when we say, okay, so there is this more nefarious element, then, oh, they don't have, let's use a nitpicky word, they don't have corporeal form. They don't really get to have a hand, so they need hands. So while I agree with, of course, with the factions of the protector faction, the white hat faction, if you want to call it that, there's obviously also a far more human component to those who cooperate with their agenda, because they don't really have hands. They're not getting corporeal forms. They need to get something with corporeal form to agree to do the bad stuff too. So factions good, factions bad, or away from bad good. There are factions that want, if you will, the organic soul to wake up and succeed in the video game. They realize it's to their benefit, part of the game they can't play, that they're going to get benefited by the souls playing well. And then there are those who can't see that. So everybody wants to get their influence on some hands, but you're bringing up a good point that like they need hands. So that side of the protective side, or the side that wants to come up and give you some clues, some codes, some insight, some guidance, look over here, not over there.
Yeah.
Or the side that's going to destroy you. In fact, it needs hands. It doesn't have hands.
That's where I was going before you started speaking. It was like, I was going to kind of go into the whole, all of these factions are limited in ways that we may perhaps not be, it's like, I don't think that they have necessarily the ability to, they don't have the hands to come on this podcast right now and say, do my bidding, or whatever, or wake the fuck up, like we're trying to help you, either way. There's like this, there's this certain absence of ability that, even like some guy like your neighbor guy who's just some ordinary basic bitch, right? Like that guy has hands, he has all the components necessary to, but what's he doing?
Wait, hang on 1 second. Are you still here, TJ?
No, he's not.
Okay. My screen still says, okay, I see. Fair enough.
Yeah,
well, I didn't realize, I just saw the chat that he was leaving, because I felt like it would be great as somebody who's not as fluent in these conversations to hear how he was fielding all this, but he is not here. So,
yeah, I know.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, he sent a message to the group, and then he left a while ago.
Yeah, I just saw that. It was 20 minutes ago. He said that. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I wanted to get some of these ideas having some more form and shape, but then I wanted to give it back to him to say, you're not fluent in this little conversation, this little in-group communication we're having. So I wanted to hear how he was interpreting our foreign language.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I wanted to make a point on what Jason was just saying. Because you were talking about like are we gonna keep going right now, or are we gonna add
Go
it back?
for it.
Yeah, let's please go for it. Go for it.
Okay.
Please
Gotcha.
continue.
Yeah. So, something that you started talking about, Z, and I think you also, Jason, you started talking about that just now. A little bit, like we've touched on it, is that in the movie their whole thing, like their entire goal is that they want a human soul. So they themselves, and Z, you were talking about like 5 minutes ago or maybe more, you were saying that they, like, are they really like this evil thing, or are they just like holding the space? And I do kind of think that's what it is like, because and that's kind of part of the disclosure of what the movie is saying that it's like, hey, there's a united group that basically operates as a hive mind, and because of sheer numbers that are dedicated to a singular purpose, they're able to overpower all of the activated or just existing human souls which are on the planet, despite the fact that they themselves are less. Well, like, that's almost like what the message of it is.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And that's missed. That's totally missed by so many souls who are really making excuses for themselves. And when you see what you just said, okay, it's not that they don't have negativity. It's not that they are nothing. They are not nothing. They do exist. They are negative. But I would like to get real nitpicky with a couple words so that we could see the structure more clearly. They are thought. They are thoughts or notions. And that doesn't go anywhere without, in short, hands. So they need to impregnate their notion or their thought, which is a faculty of what we would ultimately simply call mind. They need to impregnate that into some consciousness with a body, with a corporeal form. So the word that I want to get a little nitpicky on that you used, we use it differently than you used at Camden. It's physical, because I believe we've been conditioned to use that word wrong. So when we're dealing with the world of corporeal form, or a bodily form, a concrete, hard form, we're really just talking about matter in the sense of the conventional science, matter, molecules. That could be a little different, but matter is obviously this form. We are in the material world, a world full of substance and matter. Whereas we use that synonymously with the word physical, but we would not call the world of matter the physical world. The physical world is synonymous with the mental world, or if you want to use it as where you write a code that then you'll see a web page, or there's a code for genes, genotype, and then there's what we visualize, move around in, and see, the phenotype. So in reality, at this stage of existence, we only have really two modes. We have the invisible, unseen, mental, physical, akashic, etheric, lots of different words. It's just the code, world of code. And then you have the revealed world that is material, or the produced world that we see. We can pick an object up in that's basically produced by the number one, if you will. You go into more depth on that later. But we're moving around in a world of matter that is influenced by the code that it's written in, which is physical, or where physics is composed and encoded. So that is the physical world, is the world where physics is written. And then there's the material world where it's revealed and seen and utilized. And in between are the chemical builders, down to genetic encoding, mRNA sequences that build amino acid, the chains that go through the constructing of the thing. So that is the chemical builder, sits in between the physical encoding and the material operation, if that makes sense. Does it?
Yeah, it does. I mean,
Camden?
I disagree with that.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think that they but it's not like a crazy disagreement. I just don't think that the classification of physical is being aligned with the mental world that makes sense. Like it's like I would say that it's like but I mean it's really just a matter of definitions. So it's not like a real disagreement.
I understand. You're not disagreeing that there are these two levels. You're just not on board yet with using that word that way as a definition.
Yeah, well, because I would say that physical is the place where physics are acted out. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm strongly suggesting, though, that this is conditioning that causes us to have misalignments later with the operation, like a deeper and simpler level of this, understanding the number 1 and the number 0 and how they were inverting things. So while on a simple sense of how we've learned to say this, I see what you mean. That's fair. But then I'm going to suggest that the reason they want us to use the words this way is so we have a misalignment on the next couple levels of understanding.
Well, I'll consider what you're saying and probably have to
on a level that might be very direct to yourself.
Probably change my opinion.
Well, let's change it in a rational way and make sure, that we're saying to everybody, let's reveal the steps of those adjustments. So like, if you want to get into it in your direct experience of your recent direct experience is, say, what I mean is one of the shadowings or one of the suppressions of this is when you realize that what is happening in your unseen world, what it can do in the seen world. When you realize that one of the levels of obfuscation is taking away from the individual how much power their unseen imagination has in the seen material space, where it's possible that one of the differentials and even the terminology itself is going, oh, I'm writing code in physics that alters molecularly and chemically alters the material space.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. The model that I laid out doesn't really exclude or go against any of those things you just said.
Not at all.
I'm just
saying even.
Yeah, well, all I was saying is that the actual word itself, I believe that the word is defined differently. Like, that's basically all I was saying.
I hear what you're saying.
It's just a matter of using a word. Because I never debated that, like, there's an immutable kind of code to this that is unseen, that operates and functions like as above, so below. It has like a overarching kind of theme, and you can affect things. Obviously, I'm not debating that at all. I'm just
absolutely. We understand where none of us are disputing that. What I'm more curious about is, not like a debate about the word or the word becoming, it's more why potentially why have we been potentially misdirected to use this word? Is there deeper reasons that we've been suggested? So even if you take like maybe let's say the most simple definition, like physics has some element of work is getting done, right? Like that's a very simple like dissection of the word physics where work is getting done, right?
I mean, yeah, that is a pretty simple thing.
So now if I could potentially postulate it to you, it's like, well, maybe it's a trick so we misunderstand where work is really getting done. And this would tie back nicely to all those buildings and the bodies and discussion. So is work really getting done on the material plane where we see hard work really pays off? Really? Does it?
Yeah,
or is
actually,
that
we
just
just materialize that out
preoccupation?
of thin air.
Exactly. Or is work really getting done on the mental plane where you're taking physical initiative, where you can become ambitious about driving by will, the physics of the thing? So if we took a simpler, holistic approach to the word's definition, where work is getting done, then the reevaluation from our conditioning or our trance would be, well, where is work really getting done? And I wanted to bring in a couple minutes back the elements of, well, this would pertain as well to the New Testament speak of archai, archons, principalities, powers, or saying this great poetic phrase in there that applies to our reality. We don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but the principalities and powers of the high airwaves above, so saying, yeah, these things, once again, they don't have hands. They're not corporeal. So they're thought forms that want to impregnate themselves, but there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work getting done. So, that's where their thoughts are electromagnetic components. So they are touching and scraping, and there's an element of mu factoring, friction in all of this, but they need to get into bodies that will do something. Anyway, so if we reduce it back down to where work is getting done, it makes us ask the question, where is work really getting done? Not on the web page that you see. It's the coders behind the scene that are writing all the script. Does it make sense like that?
I mean, yeah, I agree with all that. Yeah.
So it's not just a fight over words, about who's got the better semantics here, but rather what are we being misdirected to not understand where work is? And
it is a fight over words, literally, because I like the paradigm that I'm using, I guess I've changed the official definitions. I kind of have my own definitions for things because I've come up with my own understandings for how things work over time. So when I say physical, I don't really mean it from like the mainstream paradigm. So like it literally is just designations of what terms mean is all it is. I agree with you completely.
Work, right?
And
so
I see what you're saying about that actually. Like they're trying to create like a mismatch in people's minds.
100%. And now we're down to even a stupid phrase like work smarter, not harder. So in order to work smarter, not harder, we need to understand where work is getting done, or even take this super powerful code language of Hebrew, and they've got all their tenements and rules about the Sabbath. And they say you can't do any, well, in English, all the translations will say work on the Sabbath, but that's not really the Hebrew word. The Hebrew word for work is avodah, like avoda kedavra, which literally means my works match my words. That's how, when the alignment of the inner matches the words, matches the action, you get something congruent that happens or actualizes. But just the word avodah is work in the more standard sense of a mechanical work or task is happening. But you can do that on the Sabbath. If you were in a place where you weren't doing one of the things you can't do, which is carrying at a pretty low level, but you can't carry. So if you were just in a contained space, your inside domain, you could do all sorts of avoda. You could do all sorts of tasks and lifting your furniture and getting real sweaty and doing the standard definition of logistical mechanistic work. But what can't you do is malacha, which is very close to a angel in the word for Hebrew, or malach, or like a molecule. So then you're talking about really innovative action. So when you see those are clarifications of what we're really talking about with this physics or ma'alakha or ma'alachim, these angles or algorithms or angels, parts of reality, and then a molecular structure. You're talking about innovative actions. Where is work really getting done? What kind of work are we talking about? So it seems they're delineating clearly that work on the unseen world is molecular or quantum or quark-based, and work on the external is just service, avodah, service work, moving furniture, not really doing anything. So work smarter, not harder. Where is work? Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess relating that back to Dark City, there's kind of just saying that there's like a it's like, hey guys, look, this weird kind of demented hive mind of like freaks. They're able to put their minds together enough to where they can cause change, and then you guys can't.
Well, can't, but okay, great. That's brilliant, Camden. Thank you, because the Jude Law character eventually shows that he can.
Yeah, well, I guess it's not can't, it's won't.
There it is. There it is. So there's like a willingness to be raped going on. So the majority of the people who are not Murdoch, the character played by Jude Law, the majority of the people, they're willing victims of this rape. They're just sitting there as if they couldn't do it. Like, no, they could just do what Jude Law is doing. They could do what Murdoch is doing. They could follow John Murdoch. Anytime in a movie where somebody's name is John, I mean, we understand what's going on there, right? He's obviously the pimp, he's the John. So he's supposed to be leading a bunch of hoes out of their problematic place that they need his strong hand to guide them down the river. He's the John Murdoch. They could all do exactly what he's doing. He's not special, except in and of that he has not forgot that it's his responsibility and duty, and that he can say these things. He can do these things. He can do them better than they can. because they can't actually do anything. They're inferior forms, they're thought forms. They don't have anywhere to go with it unless these souls are just sitting there and allowing themselves to be raped through the conduit of some enlisted agent, like the Kiefer Sutherland character, who's enlisted to do these actions for them. But if they all were to go, no, we're done being raped and toyed with and gaslit and played, like, it's over. It just takes one John Murdoch to go, no. And they're all one guy, and they're all just totally dismayed. Right?
Yeah.
So the idea of there being, you know, an entire population of John Murdochs, that's like, it's over.
Right. But what does the population always do? They always focus on the Messiah instead of getting the Messiah to focus on themselves. They're going to say, John Murdoch, save us, oh pimp. John, be our pimp. Pimp for us. Be our vicar. Be our pope. Be our pimp. Save us, John. And it's like, no, wake up. You have to save your part of this. I can only do John's part of this, and I can demonstrate to you that a human can resist them. But there's a lot of space in here. You got to stand up and fill your space. I can't John Murdoch for you. I can only show you that it's possible. Now you've got to, like, no, John, save us. And he's like, well, look how much I'm doing to this thing by myself. What if there was, like Jason said, a population? So
Yeah,
the real theme is responsibility, right?
Yeah, and it's like, it's also indolence too. It's just like, oh, it's like I mean, that's exactly why people are into religion, you know. It's like, oh, well, I don't have to really do anything, you know. Isn't that convenient? I don't have to do the work. I don't
I
have
can
to
come sit in the pew. I get to sit in a pew and the work is done on me.
Yeah, and once a week I take this thing called my soul out of the closet and I shine it up real bright, you know, for an hour.
There
and
you
then I put
go.
it back.
There you go.
You know? And it's like, but I know that my daddy's gonna fucking take care of all my problems for me. You know, aren't you, John?
Maybe if you got a better version, you know, maybe it's 3 times a day. You got a really, you know, high-tech version. You got a lot of stuff you got to do all day long, but you're still probably believing in somebody else to collect all the parts and put them together for you, even at the most, you know, intensive version I've ever seen, you know, practicing Jewish laws, like a very high-tech version of getting God to say your merits, you know, he'll take care of it. You've done a lot, you know, or Muslims 3 times a day, you know, like, you got the lowest level of service with these Christians who believe they can take out their little soul once a week, put the butt in the pew and cross, you know, do genuflex to Satan a few times. Or if that's not their particular sectarian notch in the, you know, then maybe they're just standing up with their arms raised and they're just vibing it out together with the Holy Spirit. And then they're going to go back to start their indulgent week of sin and neglect and apathy, and it's not antipathy. But don't worry, because they'll come back in the revolving door next week, and God or Jesus, it's taken care of. They're going to be saved. They're going to be saved.
Hey, don't say something bad about them. They're just doing their job. All right. They're just trying to make money. Okay.
I don't know. I don't even know if they're making money. They're not making progress. That's for sure.
They're just being a good little rat. They're just doing their job.
Well, and then gonna come.
They work at like a cigarette factory or something like that. You know what I mean?
Well, I know what you mean, but now we're gonna reveal the next element of this is that they get really mad. Even they get really mad at the John Murdoch character, right? Like maybe that's not such a big highlight of this movie, but in reality, the character is actually doing the real work and standing up for themselves and not taking this. They all get really mad at that character. Like, hey, you're making it hard on the rest of us. Why are you doing this?
Anybody that hasn't seen this movie is gonna think that they're gonna think it's just about like some guy who like gets like taken over in the cigarette business. Like nobody's gonna have any idea what the fuck this movie's about now.
Well, and the next dynamic though is that people get really annoyed with the individual who's willing to take the anointed path and do something, manually do something in here. Because now once it's shown that a soul can stand up and do something in here, and by the way, the so-called power elite, like they don't have any innate power. They're just taking it from you because you're just, as Jason said, indolent. You're just lazy. You're not doing anything. You're abiding in your apathy and cherishing the moment of your rape as though, oh, I'm being touched and something is happening. Now they're being shown, oh, there's action. And everybody's mad at John Murdoch.
Well, yeah, and because of the fact there's not a lot of John Murdoch type characters, they instantly can just be like, oh, this guy's awake, and then like their entire force is just dedicated to him. And,
Interesting point. Interesting.
Because there's so few of them. And then like it's like within like a night, they're coming after him with knives and shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yep. There's an additional great point. Oh, look at that. Because some souls are awake, but there's so few and there's so many cowards who don't want to move together. It's like you're very vulnerably exposed. And all of them are like, kill it, kill it. Why does Murdoch do as we do?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like if you have 169,000 lights, and then like there's like a couple hundred of them that are on. It's not that hard to see which ones are on.
Like, it's not that hard.
nature of being turned on, so it's kind of just like turns you into a beacon. Like it's like, hey. Especially the more you learn, the more you grow, it's harder to just be like this hidden kind of unknown faction.
Yeah.
That
so I believe you have
pretty quickly.
You have two really great points that I believe, if you want to share from your direct experience, have come up for you in your recent life, where you have come more face to face with the acceptance that the things that you've known about or been touching or moving through, like they're real, but like you're always aware of them, but you're like, oh, this is kind of just something in my head, in my imagination. You're like, oh wait, this is real, and it's simpler, and it doesn't need to be complicated. It's just real. That's one big element. And then, oh, if a very big light walks into a very average space, something very unusual starts to happen. So I don't know what you want to share about that. It's open. If you want to say anything about certain experiences you may have had recently.
Well, I mean, I'll say that I tend to cause some strife sometimes. In the past, when I was giving into more temptation, like drinking alcohol and stuff like that, I would be welcomed in those types of environments because me embracing like the degenerate behavior would amplify it for people. But
or you're just seen as not threatening.
yeah, that too. But like it's one of those things where if you have like a binary and you're representing the binary and it's like a switch that's always been on, you don't really have like any measurable way to know what it was like when it was off or if it's ever been off. So in some ways it's just a matter of realizing that a lot of this stuff doesn't happen to other people. I guess, but I'm not really sure what two specific examples you're talking about. Which ones what are you referring to?
Oh, just the general experience you were having of realizing that many of the things that you've been aware of are not just interesting mental trinkets, just that they're real. And in a simple sense, they have a more effect on the world around you than you gave them credit for, just as a general thing you were coming to experiencing. And then there was, say, you and I walking into certain environments and seeing, say, if you were to use a parlance like, well, you shouldn't force awakening on those who don't want it. Okay, but but it's say, take my case. Am I not allowed to just walk into the room? I'm not forcing awakening on anybody. I'm talking to them about the color of the bar, the actual bar where, the shelf, not the bar, the establishment, the bar, like the shelf that you put a drink on, like it is brown. Do you like brown? But because I walked in and said words, some people's differential is the mirror that they're looking into is so problematic for them, just, seeing what it is when you're embodying it, such a differential of light, it just disturbs them so much. It's like, may I breathe? Am I allowed to breathe in here with you? Or saying, if you say there's 169,000, okay, threw that number out, like these souls, and you have the example of a baby elephant, and you put the baby elephant on a certain chain, but then it becomes a giant adult elephant, but it'll never object to the chain because it's just been conditioned. So these souls just are in this position where they just don't believe they can exude, they can't bloom, they can't speak, they can't light up, they don't. John Murdoch's just going to make it worse for the rest of us, because if we light up, then we're going to get beaten down, not acknowledging that if they all broke the chain together, no way the opposition can keep anybody down, but they don't move together. So they just want to attack. The philosopher Schopenhauer, psychologist, philosopher Schopenhauer talked about this a lot. Oh, this light just shining in my eyes, and I don't want to realize I have that light too, because I've learned if I just keep my head down, it won't beat me as much. So let's beat the thing that's lifting its head up, because
then I'll actually have to, endure some adversity, to achieve a greater existence for myself and others, and I'm too fucking lazy and cowardly to do that.
And too conditioned to being a slave.
Yeah.
Liberty costs something.
Yo, Z. Hey, so it's 9.
Okay. It's 9.
Yeah, I kind.
Yeah, we can.
I kind of like the
You
idea.
want to give us a? Yeah, we're not live. I didn't say that earlier, but I was explaining that I couldn't get the protocol to work, so we're just recording. I wanted to be live, but there are issues with Zoom where when I did this with our Mac back in the spring, there was a bunch of stuff that needed to be downloaded, and it doesn't want to go live. It was working on this OS before, but when I went to do it, so we're just recording. We're going to get it up on YouTube, but it is not live. In the future, we will be live.
That's pretty cool. There were some pretty good moments in there.
So
I kind of feel like we have a good kind of phone talk show almost like early 2000s conspiracy type vibe.
Yeah, that's what we're going for. So why don't you give us a good wrap, Cam, on all this? Give us a good wrap on it all, and we'll kind of close it out, Cam. Camden, pardon.
Just like an overall, like an outro for the call.
Yeah, there you go. Just kind of wrap it all up. Put a bow on it. Go back through whatever you want to do. Final words, as they like to say.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, well, a major message that we want to convey is that the concept of disclosure, that they want to put these things in front of us, or that they have to put this stuff in front of us if they're going to do something, because like Z said, they need consent. So there are hints for you in your life that you can look at. You just have to pay attention. I think that's the main thing. If you haven't watched the movie, go watch Dark City, because that's what we've been kind of like tying things into. I think all of us have probably watched that movie more than once. But that and many other movies have what's called predictive programming, which most people are pretty familiar with. And like I said, like we've said and kind of covered overall, they have to tell you what they're doing and what's happening. So don't be a fool and fall for like the many litmus tests. Growing up, you watch your friends that you grow up with, you watch them fall from being actualized, and then you see them slowly, their beliefs fall like Lincoln logs or dominoes or something like that, and eventually they become like cells in a way. At least that's how it was for me. So not allowing that to happen, and not falling for like the humiliation rituals, not falling for the education system, and actually being able to watch these things and see the truth in them, I think is really like the message of what we're trying to convey, at least with this.
Okay.
Is that correct?
You got
think that's right?
I mean, that's you. I'm not saying it. That's good. Do you have a final thing to say, Jason?
No, not really. I mean, let's just do it again tomorrow and stay on track and on time. And I mean, considering it's just, I might come up with something for a live audience. I thought that we were live, so if it was that, I may think of something to say. But I mean, as far as it's just the three of us boys, I feel like we got, at least, and even if even if it's just us getting up and talking live, or like speaking as we did today, this is good exercise. So,
well, I will get this on YouTube either later tonight or tomorrow.
Okay.
As soon as we close, Zoom is going to condense this to a audio file for me, which is very easy. I'll put that up on YouTube with some kind of a background. And
Sure.
if I can figure out these protocols quickly enough, or just operate somebody else producing with the machine that we've already fixed the protocols, because Zoom made a lot of extra. There's a lot of extra. It's with Zoom itself. Zoom has made a lot of hurdles to certain devices. So anyway, as soon as I can get that corrected, maybe even tomorrow, we will be live. So ASAP, we will be live.
I like the idea of like doing it like 7 to 9, and like, if we run a little over, it's fine, but save it for the next day, like instead of us getting up at 7
definitely.
and all of a sudden it's like 1 in the morning, it's like we should really kind of like cut it at 9. I'm just putting that out there.
I mean,
That's
anyway, the time is something we're growing out of, and we are sort of fixtures like the body anyhow. So this conversation is just a pattern that will reconstitute the next day anyway. I mean,
Sure.
These words, what are we saying? We're just saying the pattern until the pattern emerges and is able to be accessed oh, that's just that pattern again. What the heck are we saying?
Yeah. No, I just wanted to quickly say that what that like thing that I said, that was kind of like addressing an audience. That wasn't addressing you guys. I wasn't trying to like preach to you guys. I know you guys already know all that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was clear, but I was trying to like wrap
they already know. They already know. You're doing great. Yeah. I like the way you're conveying yourself because, yeah, 100%. Like, obviously, this is a conversation that's having a conversation with itself for everybody who's the listener and the witness and the communicator. Our mouths are moving, but the conversation is, the dialogue is dialoguing. So don't get too meta. A lot of thoughts. It's a lot of thoughts. It gives them a lot of gaps. Well, sound patronizing, but don't give them the gaps to come in on the overthought. Okay. We're okay. We're doing great. All right. So until tomorrow. So the only reason I was letting it go a little longer is because we started later than 7 so that we got a 2-hour clip of this, but I'm not exactly sure when we started. So it can be a little less. It's okay. And the conversation.
For me, it says an hour 55.
Yeah. Okay. We're pretty on point then, I guess.
Yeah,
so,
we're pretty close.
And what is it anyway? We're just attempting to form something we might call in here consistency and generate a field, condition the room, and let the conversation snowball. So this is said when this does get up on YouTube and when we get live, you're all invited, come share, come tell us that we are insane people who have no idea what we're talking about, no grasp on anything, but make sure you bring your A game and be prepared to show your math and tell us why, and expect a lot of pushback. And please don't run away. Don't run away. Let's have a claim, counterclaim, respond, reply, reporting, if you will. We're engaging in this dialogue. So come, say, proclaim, sort, and don't leave the discussion or leave. But, we will clown you forever and ever. You will be a meme that we will clown if you leave. Probably if you stay as well, but definitely if you leave.
Well, all right, I'm out. I'm about to leave. See you, boys.
Am I? All right, guys.
Well,
until tomorrow.
You have to let G just sit there and threaten people for another 4 minutes so they can get a full 2 hours.
Oh, not threatening. I'm just doing my own version of satanic disclosure. It's just disclosure. It's just a fact. I mean, Jason, is it a fact? If you leave, you shall be clowned forever.
I mean, obviously.
I mean, it kind of goes without saying, but we would be remiss if we didn't provide our own form of disclosure and transparency.
Yeah. Hey, you already know I give people plenty of notice, man.
Well, I do. I'll give some people some respect for actually coming forward and saying something. Even if I think that they're stupid with their points, at least they're not like, I mean, because it's like especially because it's like if you imagine it like a gladiator fight, it's like we have like a tiny little butter knife and they have like a shield and a fucking katana. Like, and what I mean by that is that they can hide behind the mainstream consensus and bring it down like a hammer in a conversation and use it like a massive shield and a fucking katana. You know what I mean? And I'm not like that visualization. I'm not saying that our points are not valid. I'm just saying that, like, when it comes to the way that the mainstream consensus looks at it, it's like they have like a fucking RPG in a knife fight. You know what I mean?
Some forms of notice are better left implied. Some forms. But
what do you mean?
Okay. That was not for you, Camden. But anyway, so I appreciate that. And as far as that, we hope that these cultivations that we are growing here increase, and we're happy to be nails under the mainstream hammer as long as the hammer sticks around, and considers the possibility that it might actually be the nail. That could probably be said better. But point taken, Camden. Until tomorrow. You all be well.
Yeah, Mukti guys. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yep.
Bye-bye.